The FBI just announced something that should terrify every single person watching this video. They're opening a new China-related counterintelligence case every 12 hours. Not every week, not every month, every 12 hours. That's 730 new cases per year on top of the 1,000+ cases already active. And those are just the ones they know about. The director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, the man who has access to classified intelligence on what's actually happening behind closed doors, stood up and called this one of the largest transfers of wealth in human history. Let me say that again. Largest transfers of wealth in human history. Not the biggest trade deal, not some corporate merger. The largest wealth transfer ever recorded. And it's happening right now, while you're watching this, while you're going to work, while you're paying your taxes and building a life. $600 billion per year, stolen, not traded, not negotiated, not earned, stolen from American companies, from American workers, from American innovation. But here's what makes this story genuinely insane. At the exact same time China is taking $600 billion per year from America, Chinese billionaires and millionaires are moving $217 billion per year out of China and into America. Wealth flowing in both directions simultaneously. American innovation flowing to China, Chinese money flowing to America, two massive rivers of capital crossing in the night, and both of them are reshaping the global economy faster than anyone wants to admit. This is the story of how China triggered the biggest wealth transfer in U.S. history. Why your job, your savings, your children's future are all caught in the current, and why the FBI, with all its resources and all its agents, cannot stop what's coming. Let me start with what the FBI director actually said, because this isn't some politician looking for votes. This isn't a think tank trying to get funding. This is Christopher Wray, the man who runs the agency, responsible for catching spies and stopping economic espionage on American soil. In 2020, Wray gave a speech. And in that speech, he used three words that should have made headlines everywhere, but somehow didn't. Largest in history. Here's what he said, quote, "Chinese economic espionage amounts to one of the largest transfers of wealth in human history," end quote. Think about what that actually means. Human history includes colonialism, empires extracting wealth from continents for centuries. The Marshall Plan, the biggest aid package ever assembled. Every trade deal ever signed, every merger, every acquisition, every financial transfer that's ever been recorded. And the FBI director is saying Chinese theft of American intellectual property ranks among the largest of all of them. The U.S. Trade Representative ran a formal investigation, Section 301, official findings on China's unfair trade practices. They calculated the annual loss, $225 billion to $600 billion per year. Not total, per year. Let me put that number in perspective. The entire U.S. federal government collected about $4.9 trillion in tax revenue in 2025. China is stealing the equivalent of 12% of total U.S. tax revenue every single year. That's not a trade deficit. That's not a negotiation loss. That's extraction on a civilizational scale. But here's the thing. It's not just about the money. Money is just how we measure damage. What matters is what's actually being stolen. In May 2022, a cybersecurity company called CyberEason released a report with CBS News. They uncovered a Chinese state-sponsored hacking group, APT-41, also called the Wintai Group. These weren't random hackers operating out of a basement. This was a coordinated operation, state-sponsored, state-funded, state-directed. APT-41 targeted approximately 30 multinational companies. North America, Europe, Asia, didn't matter where you were headquartered. If you had valuable intellectual property, you were a target. What did they steal? Hundreds of gigabytes of data, blueprints for manufacturing, diagrams of proprietary systems, formulas for pharmaceuticals, research data for biotechnology, defense technology designs. The report said APT-41 stole trillions of dollars worth of intellectual property over years of operations. Trillions, not millions, not billions, trillions. And here's how it worked. They'd find a way into company networks. Maybe someone clicked a phishing email. Maybe they exploited a software vulnerability. It doesn't matter how. They got in. Once inside, they installed malware, created backdoors, established what security people call persistence, meaning they couldn't be kicked out. Then they mapped the network, quietly, carefully, finding where the valuable data was stored, engineering files, research databases, email systems, executive communications. Then they exfiltrated, moved data out slowly enough that it didn't trigger alarms, gigabytes of blueprints, terabytes of research, all flowing to Chinese servers. Sometimes they sat inside company networks for months, sometimes years, just watching, learning, downloading. By the time the company discovered the breach, the Chinese hackers had copied everything of value. Manufacturing processes that took decades to develop, copied in days. Drug formulas that cost billions to create. Stolen overnight? And here's the part that should make you genuinely angry. The FBI says China has a bigger hacking program than every other major nation combined. Combined. They have thousands of hackers working full-time targeting American companies. And the FBI admits they can't keep up. For every hacker they catch, 10 more are working. For every breach they discover, 5 more are happening. The scale is too big, the resources too unbalanced. And here's what nobody's telling you. The $600 billion per year, that's just what we know about. That's the stuff companies discovered, the breaches that got reported, the theft that got documented. How much more is happening that we don't even know about yet? How much intellectual property is sitting in Chinese servers right now that won't be discovered for years? Let me show you exactly what's being taken. Because this isn't abstract. This isn't economic theory. This affects real industries, real companies, real American jobs, defense technology. China has stolen blueprints for fighter jets, helicopters, missile systems, radar technology, the F-35 fighter jet, the most advanced aircraft America has ever built. It cost over $1 trillion to develop, took decades of engineering, represents the cutting edge of American aerospace innovation. China's J-31 looks suspiciously similar. Why? Because they stole the designs. How do we know? Because the FBI caught them, multiple cases. Chinese nationals working at defense contractors, copying files, sending data back to China. Some got caught, most probably didn't. Pharmaceuticals. You know those new weight loss drugs making headlines? Ozempic, Wegovy. That technology is worth billions. It represents years of research and clinical trials. Chinese hackers have targeted those companies. Why does this matter? Because developing a new drug costs on average $2.6 billion and takes 10 to 15 years. If China steals the formula, they skip all that. They can produce generic versions immediately, undercut American prices, capture the market. American pharmaceutical companies lose revenue. They cut research budgets. They lay off scientists. Innovation slows. Jobs disappear. Technology, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, cloud infrastructure, all targeted, all stolen. Semiconductor manufacturing is incredibly complex. It took American and allied companies decades to perfect. Billions in investment, thousands of engineers working for years. China wants to catch up. So instead of investing decades, they steal the processes. AI research. American companies like OpenAI, Google, Microsoft are leading the world. Their algorithms, their training methods, their architectures, all targets. China wants to leapfrog American AI development. And stealing is faster than developing energy technology. Advanced solar panels, battery systems, grid management software, power generation innovations, all stolen. Biotechnology, gene editing, CRISPR research, vaccine development, medical device designs, all targeted manufacturing. This one is huge. American manufacturers spend years developing efficient processes, how to make products faster, cheaper, better. Those processes are trade secrets worth millions. China steals them, builds factories using stolen processes, undercuts American prices. The pattern is always the same. American companies invest billions in decades developing something. Chinese hackers steal it in weeks. Chinese companies produce it cheaper because they didn't pay for development. American companies can't compete. American workers lose jobs. And here's the part that should enrage you. It's not just happening to big corporations, small companies too. That startup your friend works at, that innovative manufacturer in your hometown, they're targets too, because China doesn't just want the big stuff. They want everything. Every innovation, every advantage, every edge. Let me explain exactly how China steals this intellectual property. Because understanding the methods shows you how systematic this really is. Method 1, cyber theft, hacking. This is what APT 41 does, what dozens of other Chinese hacking groups do. They identify targets, companies with valuable IP. They research the company, find vulnerabilities, find employees who might click a bad link, find software that hasn't been updated, find any crack in the armor. They get in. Once inside the network, they install malware, create backdoors, establish persistence. Then they map everything, find where the valuable data is stored, engineering files, research databases, email systems. Then they exfiltrate, move data out slowly, carefully, so it doesn't trigger alarms. Security firms estimate that companies don't discover breaches for an average of 207 days. That's almost 7 months. 7 months where hackers have free access to everything. Method 2, forced technology transfer. This one is more subtle, but just as devastating. American companies want access to the Chinese market. 1.4 billion consumers. Huge opportunity. But China says, okay, you can sell here, but you have to partner with a Chinese company. Joint venture required. And in that joint venture, you have to share your technology, transfer your manufacturing processes, train Chinese engineers, share your trade secrets. American companies do it because they want the market access. But what happens? The Chinese partner, learns everything, and 5 years later, they start their own competing company using your technology. And you can't do anything about it because you agreed to the technology transfer. This has happened in automotive, aerospace, renewable energy, telecommunications. Across industries, American companies trade long-term competitive advantage for short-term market access. Method 3, economic espionage, old-fashioned spying. Chinese nationals get jobs at American companies. Not all of them are spies. Most aren't. But some are recruited by Chinese intelligence, directed to apply for jobs at target companies. Get hired, gain access, copy files, report back. The FBI has documented hundreds of cases, engineers downloading blueprints before quitting to return to China, researchers copying formulas, managers stealing customer lists. Some get caught, prosecuted, imprisoned. But for every one caught, how many succeed? Method 4, academic and research theft. This one targets universities. China sends thousands of students and researchers to American universities. Again, most are legitimate, but some are directed by Chinese intelligence to steal research. They join labs working on cutting-edge technology, gain access to unpublished research, copy data, send it back to China. Sometimes they never publish in the US, just take the research and leave. Or they violate agreements, bring research back to China that was supposed to stay in the US, use it to launch Chinese companies or military programs. The FBI has said every major US university has likely been targeted by Chinese intelligence for academic espionage. All 4 methods work together. Cyber theft steals what's already developed. Forced technology transfer takes what's in production. Economic espionage grabs what's in companies. Academic theft captures what's in development. Comprehensive, systematic, relentless. Now, let me tell you about the second wealth transfer, the one going the opposite direction. Chinese money fleeing China and coming to America. $217 billion per year, average from 2020 to 2024. That's according to the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, verified by the Brookings Institution. Every year, $217 billion leaves China, and a huge chunk of it comes to the United States. Why? Because wealthy Chinese don't trust their own system anymore. Xi Jinping launched something called Common Prosperity. Sounds nice. The reality? Crackdowns on successful entrepreneurs, wealth redistribution by government fiat, regulatory attacks on tech billionaires, billionaires disappearing, then reappearing months later, more compliant. Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba, one of the most successful entrepreneurs in Chinese history. He criticized Chinese regulators, disappeared from public view for months. When he came back, he was quiet, subdued. His company got hammered with regulations and fines. That sent a message to every other wealthy Chinese person. The government can take your wealth, can destroy your company, can make you disappear anytime they want. So what do wealthy Chinese do? They move money out before the government can take it. But China has capital controls. You're not supposed to be able to move large amounts out of the country. $50,000 per year limit for individuals. So they use workarounds, shell companies, fake trade invoices, cryptocurrency, underground banking networks, buying foreign real estate through intermediaries. Where does the money go? United States is the top destination. Why? Political stability, rule of law, property rights protection. No one's going to make you disappear in America for being rich. Chinese money flows into U.S. real estate, luxury apartments in New York, mansions in California, commercial buildings in major cities. It flows into U.S. stocks and bonds, safe haven assets, government securities, blue chip companies. It flows into U.S. businesses, investments in startups, purchases of established companies, acquisitions. It flows into hard assets, gold, silver. Chinese investors are major buyers, fleeing their currency, fleeing their system. This capital flight actually benefits America in some ways. It brings money into our economy, supports our real estate markets, funds our companies, buys our government debt. But it also shows something important. The wealthiest, most successful Chinese people don't trust China's future. They're voting with their money, and the vote is leave. This creates an interesting dynamic. China is stealing American intellectual property, American innovation, American technology, and simultaneously, Chinese wealth is fleeing to America seeking safety. It's like China, the country, is attacking America economically. While Chinese individuals are trying to join America economically, the Communist Party wants American IP to strengthen China. Chinese citizens want American security to protect their wealth. 2 wealth transfers. Same time, opposite directions, both enormous. And here's what's absolutely wild. Some of the Chinese money coming to America is probably money made from stolen American IP. Chinese companies use stolen technology to build products. They sell those products, make billions. Then the executives move that money to America to keep it safe. So American innovation gets stolen, turned into Chinese profits, then comes back to America as capital flight. Circular wealth destruction. Let me break down what this actually costs America, not just the dollar amounts. The real cost, jobs. When China steals manufacturing processes and undercuts American prices, American factories close, workers get laid off, communities built around manufacturing collapse, the Rust Belt, the industrial Midwest. These regions were devastated partly by Chinese competition using stolen technology. Towns that thrived on manufacturing watched factories close. Unemployment spike, young people leave, infrastructure decay. That's not just about trade, it's about theft enabling unfair competition. Innovation, here's the insidious part. If you're an American company and you know your research will get stolen, do you invest as much in research? Do you develop the next breakthrough if China will copy it immediately? Some companies pull back, reduce R&D spending, keep innovations secret instead of patenting them. Don't collaborate with universities. Don't publish research. That slows American innovation, slows technological progress, hurts long-term competitiveness, tax revenue. Companies earning less because they can't compete with stolen technology. Chinese competitors pay less in taxes. Workers laid off pay less in taxes. Government revenue drops. That $600 billion in stolen IP, if it was legitimate business, it would generate maybe $120 billion in corporate taxes, plus income taxes on worker wages, plus economic multiplier effects, all lost every year. Strategic advantage. This is the national security piece. When China steals defense technology, American military advantage erodes. The F-35 took decades to develop, cost over $1 trillion for the program.